Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards and I'm here with Pour Some Stamps today. So excited to be bringing you this fun interactive card that doesn't require any specialty dies. So stay tuned and I'll show you how I made it. But first of all, let's look at the products that I'm going to be using today. So I have the Hauntingly Sweet stamp set, the So Many Candles stamp set, and the Tangled Web stencil. So I started off with this piece of black cardstock, which measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8 of an inch. So just slightly smaller than a standard A2 size card base. And I'm using the Tangled Web on top. So I have used some repositionable tape on the back side of the card to hold it down to my Make Art station. Then I'm holding the stencil on top with my magnets and going in with this white pigment ink and just blending that all over my stencil through to the cardstock on the bottom underneath. And I'm just using this. This is actually a makeup brush. I've never used it for makeup, obviously. I use these for my ink blending and I find they work really, really well. Similar, I guess, to an ink blending brush. So I'm just taking my time to make sure that I get that ink all the way through the stencil and don't move my stencil around too much. And once that's done, we lift up the stencil and get the big reveal, and I just think it looks really, really cool. Next up, I have these two little circles, one out of white cardstock, one out of black. I've just used a circle stacking die set to create these. I'm not 100% sure of the measurements, but they're about, I think the larger one is about 2 3/4 and the smaller one is probably about 2.5 diameter. Now I have a standard sized card base and I've stamped out my sentiment from Hauntingly Sweet and popped that inside. Now this is where the magic's going to happen. So this strip of card is 1 inch wide and I'm scoring it at 1 inch, 1.5 inches, again at 1 inch, 1.5 inches and 1 inch again. So it goes in increments of 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And once I've done that scoring, I'm going to trim off the end of the card where that final score line was. Now, if you were to measure it out, it would be 6 inches long, but I just did it this way because I found it easier. Once I've done that, I'm going to kind of reinforce my folds with my bone folder. I don't have a Teflon bone folder, but I just have this little kind of plastic thing that works pretty well. So that's what I use. So just going over those score lines and I'm folding them all in the same direction. So they all kind of fold in the same way. And what you want to end up with is a little kind of box shape. And you'll see that here in a minute. Once I've finished there, you can see I can fold it together to create this kind of little box shape. So what I'm going to do is use some adhesive on the end. Just going to make sure I'm doing that correctly before I do that. So just on that end piece where the little final score line is, just below that, I'm adding some tape and I'm going to pop that together to create this little box shape. And this is what is going to be used for my mechanism. So once that's done, I'm going to bring my card base back out again and I'm going to pop this inside. So on one of the longer sides, I'm going to add some tape. So below the score line on one of the longer sides, just add some tape there. Make sure you don't get it on the top part, just on that longer piece, the 1.5 inch piece. Line it up with the center of your card, and then you're going to kind of fold the card up on top of it and press it down to secure it in place. And this is the first step to creating that kind of interactive pop-up. So my card is going to look quite plain from the front, but when you open it, you get that nice little pop-up surprise, and I just think it's kind of cool. Next, you're going to add some tape to that shorter piece on the bottom, and you're again going to attach that down to the card, and you can see how my mechanism works. So when it folds flat completely, and when you open it, it pops up. Now, I've already colored and cut out my images, and this is where the fun begins. So I've taken that cake and kind of colored it Halloween colors. I'm not sure I'd eat a cake that was black with all this kind of colored icing, but you know, I thought it was kind of fun. I've popped that little bat candy corn on top, and now I'm just securing that down with some tape on top of my little mechanism, which is going to create this pop-up surprise. So you will see here when I open my card, my little cake and bat pop up. Now to work on the front of my card, I've got my stenciled piece and I'm adding some tape all to the back of that. And I'm just going to pop that on the front, and it's going to leave a little border, a 1/16 border all the way around in white. I'm just making sure I've got that lined up nicely. I'm going to flip it over and press it down to make sure it's all attached nicely. Now, because it kind of pops open, because it's got that interactive element in the middle, I'm going to create a band to go around the middle of it and keep it closed, so that when you give it to the recipient, they can just slide this band off, open it up, and they'll get that pop-up surprise in the middle. So I've just used this piece of patterned paper. I've trimmed it down so it's about 2 inches wide, and I'm just using a pencil to figure out where I need to trim it off, and I'm going to attach it together at the front so that the join is at the front, and that circle piece is going to go on top of that, so you're not going to see the join. You want to make it tight enough that it's not going to slide off easily, but not too firm that you can't get it off the card. So I like to do it while wrapping it around the card to make sure. So I'm going to attach these other 2 little candy corns down onto this circle piece when I can get my glue working. So eventually I do get my glue working, and I've attached those down onto that circle piece just flat with some liquid glue. And now I'm going to attach that circle piece to the band using my tape runner again. Now I always like to go a little bit overboard with my tape runner, and I put plenty down, and I end up with a little bit on the edge, but don't worry about that. I'm going to bring out my adhesive eraser, and I'm going to just rub the rest of that adhesive off, and you would never know it was there. And there we have it. That is my little pop-up surprise card, and very easy to make without any specialty dies. I hope you enjoyed this one today. You'll be pleased to know that these stamps are available again in the shop. The Hauntingly Sweet stamp sets were out of stock for a little while, but they're back there now. So run over to the store and grab them. Here are a couple of other videos that you may enjoy, and please do subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.